Okay, as we look at our Chapter 7 review, you'll notice that the number 1 says plot each point, and it gives you a list of points that it wants you to plot. So you'll notice it wants us to plot F, which is at -6, -3, wants to plot E, which is at 2, -10, wants to plot D, which is going to be at -10 and 7, wants to plot C, which is going to be at 9 and 4, and wants to plot B, which is going to be at 0, -3. One thing we need to remember is to plot each point on our graph. We just need to remember that all those points are XY ordered pairs. And so if you know that, you can actually just make your graph, and the graph will be provided for you on your review and also on your test. But we just need to remember that this point right here, this is an X value, this is a Y value. And so when I go and make my graph, I just remember that F is going to be at -6, -3. So I go to -6 and -3, so I'm going to go in the X direction, -6, down -3, and notice that's going to be the point F. And same thing with E. So E, your X is 2, your Y is going to be -10. You come over here to 2, and then you're going to go down to -10, and go ahead and label that. So remember, X, go to 2, and then go down here to -10, and there is your point E. And then the next point that we want to plot is the point D. So again, D, we've got an XY pair here, so X is going to be -10 and 7, so that X value is -10. So you're going to go back here to -10, which would be right here, and then you're going to go up 7, so you're going to go up 7, and that point is going to be your D point. And on the next point, it says it wants us to go ahead and plot the point C, which is going to be at 9 and 4. So remember, those are both XY values, so X is 9, Y is going to be 4. So you can go over here to 9, and then go up here to 4, and put that dot right there, and label it C. And the last point, B, which is going to be 0, -3. So this is your X value, this is your Y value. So go to where X is at 0, and go down to -3, and label that point as 0, -3. So number 1 on your test, you're just going to be plotting some points for me. So just go ahead and plot all those points that is given to you. And on number 2, it says that it wants us to go ahead and find this function value. So to find the function value, it says we've got this function, f of a equals 4a minus 5. So here's my function value right here. And it wants me to find f of -7. Well, remember, this is telling you to replace the variable a with -7 in the equation and solve it. This is what I do. So you'll notice I put a little arrow here to remind myself that I'm replacing a with -7. So I go to my equation, I put in -7. Just going to solve that equation now, simplify it down. So I'm going to take 4 times -7, and I've got -28. And I still have my -5, because notice my original equation was 4 times -7 minus 5. I just take -28 minus 5 is going to be -33. And so you're just going to substitute that in, remembering that whatever number it gives you, you're just going to substitute it in for the variable that it is indicated in. And then on this next one, number 3, same type of problem. It says that we've got this equation. We've got k of n equals n cubed plus 5n. And it wants me to find k of 5. So remember, again, this is telling you to replace the n variable in the equation with 5 and then solve. So over here, I've taken my 5, I put it in my equation right here. So for this n right here, put in a 5. And for this n right here, I put in a 5. I'm just going to go ahead and simplify this. Remember to follow your order of operations when you're simplifying. So my order of operations, say the very first thing I need to do is do parentheses, and then powers, then multiplication, division, left to right, and addition, subtraction from left to right. So there's no parentheses, but there is a power right here, so 5 to the third. So if you take 5 to the third, which is 5 times 5, which is 25, and 25 times 5 is 125. Okay, now I'm going to do my multiplication, so 5 times 5 is going to be 25. I add those together, 125 plus 25 is going to be 150. So the answer to k of 5 is equal to 150. Okay, on number 4, they give us an equation here. They say this equation they're giving us is y equals 3/5 x. So remember, when the equation is in slope-intercept form, in other words, it is solved for y, remember, use y equals mxb to graph it. The y-intercept is going to be your b term. So here's my b term right here. Notice how that correlates to that. And the slope is going to be m. So whatever number this is going to be my slope. So that's 3/5. So first step, you're going to mark the y-intercept at -1. So notice I go to my y-intercept, which means where it crossed the y-axis. That's going to be a -1. And then move the slope, which is 3/5, from the y-intercept and mark it. So from this point right here, I'm going to move up 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I mark that point right there. And then all I have to do is go ahead and draw in my graph. Remember that the slope is rise over run. That's why I went up 3. So up 3 over 4 because it is, or sorry, over 5 because it is rise over run. Let me just go and connect them. And there's what my graph looks like. So number 4 on your test is going to be in slope-intercept form. Just go ahead and graph your equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, on this next problem right here, it says number 5, it says we've got 4x plus 3y, it's going to equal 12. So again, the directions on number 5 is just sketch the graph of the line. So whenever it's in this form like this, though, I just want to remind myself that if it's in general form, the easiest way to graph it, in general form is ax plus by equals c. Use the x-intercept and y-intercept to graph it. The x-intercept is where the graph crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. So remember the rules for finding the x-intercept: make y equal to 0, solve for x. To find the y-intercept, make x equal to 0, and solve for y. So you'll notice I'm following those rules. So here's my x-intercept right here. So my x-intercept says make y equal to 0. So that's what I did right here. So I replace this y with 0 and solve for x. So when I solve for x, I got 4x equals 12. I divide by 4. I get x equals 3. So there's my x-intercept. Now to find my y-intercept.
Everybody, they were trying to find the right key to turn off the system, so disregard that one. Thank you.
Okay, so to find the y-intercept, you're going to make x equals 0, solve for y. So to find my y-intercept, notice my x right here is replaced with 0. So I multiply that out. 4 times 0 is 0, so I get 3y equals 12. Divide both sides by 3, and I get y equals 4. So now to graph this, notice I just go to my x-intercept. It's where the graph crosses the x-axis at. That is at 3. I go to my y-intercept, which is at 4, to my dot at 4. And then once I'm done doing that, I just have to go ahead and connect them on my graph. And that's what my graph will look like. And that's how you graph an equation, and it is in general form. Okay, now on this next problem, on number 6. The question is, which graph is not a function? So that's the question. So when I have that question, which graph is not a function, just have to remember the following. This question can be answered using the vertical line test. The vertical line test states that in order to have a function graphically, that any drawn vertical line, so remember vertical line looks like this, straight up and down, can intersect the graph in only one place. The graphs A, B, C, and D, or sorry, A, B, and D meet that criteria, while the graph of C does not. So the graph of C is not a function. So if you look at your graphs, A, B, and C, or sorry, A, B, and D, you can draw a vertical line anywhere on those, and you will not get, it will not intersect at the main place. But C does not, so C, graph C is not a function of X. Let's take a look at number 7. So number 7, it says it wants us to find the slope through these given points. So the points it gives us, it says we got 8 and 12, we got 10 and 2. We want to find the slope of that. So you need to use your slope formula. Your slope formula is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Remember, y sub 2 stands for the second y. So here's my second y minus my first y. So here's my first y. And then we take the second x. So here's my second x. And we're going to subtract the first x. So there's my first x. So now we go ahead and solve that. So I substitute it in. So notice right here, 2 goes in place of my second y minus my first y, which is 12. Then I take my second x, which is 10, minus my first x, which is going to be 8. Go ahead and take 2 minus 12, which is going to be negative 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. I divide those, and my slope comes out to be -5. Okay, now this next problem, number 8, says write the slope-intercept form of the equation of each line and identify the slope and the y-intercept. So remember that rule right there is to write an equation in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. You need to go ahead and solve the equation for y. The slope m is the number in front of x, and the y-intercept is going to be the number by itself. So notice when you after you solve y, you just have to take a look at these two numbers right here. So to solve for y, here's the very first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to take this 4x right here, and I'm going to move it over to the other side. Well, to move that, I'm going to have to subtract 4x from both sides. So when I do that, I'm going to be left with the equation 7y equals -4x minus 14. Okay, now I have to get rid of this 7. So to get rid of that 7, I do its opposite. I'm going to divide by 7. So that means I have to divide this one by 7. So -4x is divided by 7. And -14 is divided by 7. And when I do that, I end up with the form right here. So y is all by itself. And I end up with -4/7x minus 2. Now that's it in that form like that, I can easily see what my slope is. Well, my slope, if you remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. My slope is going to be the m, which that in this case right here is -4/7. My y-intercept is my b, so that answer is going to be -2. So therefore, on that problem right there, my slope is -4/7, and my y-intercept is going to be -2. And on this next problem right here, on number 9, it says it wants us to go ahead and, it says, sketch the graph of each line. So in this case right here, I got y equals 4. So if I get y equals 4 as my equation, to graph this equation, remember that y is always equal to 4 no matter what the x value is. So notice here at 0, I'm at -4. Here at 1, I'm at 4. Here at 2, I'm at 4. Here at 3, I'm at 4. -1, I'm also at 4. So x -1, 4, 4, 4. So if that's the case, that means that I've got this horizontal line at 4. And that's how I'm going to go ahead and graph it.